Hello students. So far we have discussed several Bayesian single parameter models. The single parameter model has major assumption, that is only one parameter is unknown. But in many situations we know that single parameters model may not work well. For example, in case of normal distribution, which is the most common distribution, so there what if the mean and variance both are unknown? So in that case, having a model for just mean or just variance won't be enough. So let us start the discussion on Bayesian multiparameter models. So suppose theta is the parameter of interest. So theta, then in case of Bayesian inference, the way distribution of theta is handled is a lot different than the frequentist approach. So let us see how it can be done. So it is also possible that some elements of theta are the points of interest and the others are not. The actual parameter of interest, suppose, are some elements of theta. So the remaining parameters of theta become nuisance parameters. So in case of Bayesian inference, the problem of nuisance parameters is solved in a simple manner. So to understand the situation better, suppose we are dealing with just two parameters. So theta is a vector valued parameter having two elements, theta 1 and theta 2. And now suppose that the point of interest is only theta 1 and theta 2 is a nuisance parameter. So the ultimate aim is to obtain the posterior distribution of theta 1 given the data. So suppose we are denoting the data by y. So the model is say f. So we are assuming that the distribution of y given these parameters theta 1, theta 2 is f. So now suppose pi theta 1 theta 2 is the joint prior distribution of theta 1 theta 2. So let us see how the joint posterior distribution can be factorized. So the joint distribution of data, that is y and theta 1 theta 2, can be written as f of y theta 1 theta 2 equal to f of y given theta 1 theta 2 multiplied by the prior distribution of theta 1 theta 2. So notice that this is the joint prior distribution. Okay, now since the posterior distribution of theta 1 theta 2 is proportional to the joint distribution of y and theta 1 theta 2, so we will have the posterior distribution proportional to this quantity fy given theta 1 theta 2 multiplied by the prior. So now let us try to simplify things. So but now notice that we are interested only in the parameter theta 1 and theta 2 is the nuisance parameter. So we are interested ultimately in obtaining the posterior distribution of theta 1 given y. So now the posterior distribution of theta 1 given y will be obtained by integrating the joint distribution of theta 1 theta 2 with respect to theta 2. So upon integrating the joint posterior distribution, we will get the marginal posterior distribution of theta 1. So let us see how it can be done. So now this joint posterior will be simply the joint distribution of y and theta 1 theta 2 divided by the marginal distribution of y. Now this can be further adjusted as joint distribution of theta 1 theta 2 and y divided by the joint distribution of theta 2 and y, and then again multiplied by the joint distribution of theta 2 y divided by the marginal distribution of y. So we are dividing and multiplying by the joint distribution of theta 2 and y, where theta 2 is the nuisance parameter. So if you look at the first ratio, you can easily guess that this is nothing but the conditional distribution of theta 1 given theta 2 and y, or you can call it as a posterior distribution of theta 1 given the data and the nuisance parameter. When you say posterior distribution, it is always given the data. So given y, this element is common always when you say posterior distribution, but this is a different type of posterior in the sense you are conditioning it over theta 2. So this can also be referred to as the conditional posterior distribution of theta 1 given theta 2. And now what about the second ratio? So the second ratio is simply the posterior distribution of theta 2. So what we are doing here is we are integrating conditional posterior distribution of theta 1 given theta 2, and we are multiplying it with the marginal posterior distribution of theta 2, and we are integrating it over theta 2. So notice that if you replace this integration by summation, means if you are dealing with a discrete distribution, you can easily understand what is going on here. So suppose you are summing it over theta 2, then keep these two terms as they are. Then it would simply mean that you are dealing with a mixture of conditional posterior distribution of theta 1 given theta 2, where the weights are nothing but the probability distribution of, or the posterior distribution of theta 2 given y. So thus the marginal posterior distribution of theta 1 given y will be like this. So here I have mentioned what I said just now. Thus the posterior distribution of interest, parameter of interest, that is pi theta 1 given y, is a mixture of the conditional posterior distributions given the nuisance parameter, where the posterior distribution of the nuisance parameter is actually the weighing function for different possible values of theta 2. Weighing function, why are we calling it weighing function? Because theta 2 is a continuous variable. So weighing, instead of weights, we will have a function because we are integrating it. So we are in the continuous setup most of the time. So this becomes a weighing function, and this whole becomes a mixture distribution. So the weights depend on the posterior density of theta 2. So it represents the combination of evidence coming from the data and the prior model. Now notice that here the weights are nothing but the posterior PDF of theta 2 given y. Now the posterior distribution of the nuisance parameter will depend on the prior distribution, and prior distribution, by that I mean joint prior distribution, and also it will depend on the model F. So thus this represents the evidence about the model which is coming from the data and the prior model. So it also indicates that we can construct a multi-parameter model if we follow these steps. So the expression, this suggests that an important practical strategy for both constructing and computing multi-parameter models. So how? So posterior distributions can be computed by marginal and conditional simulations as follows. So suppose you don't have exact expressions for the distributions, instead you know the distributions up to a constant. So for example, suppose you know that pi of sigma square is proportional to sigma square raised to minus 2 or something like that. So here we don't know the complete distribution, but we know it to some extent. So then how posterior distributions can be computed? In the multi-parameter setup, if we don't have complete prior information regarding the parameters. So here a simulation procedure is given. So draw theta 2 from the marginal posterior distribution of y, then draw theta 1 from the conditional posterior distribution of y, and then you have theta 2 from here and theta 1 from here. So the pair can be said as a observation from the joint posterior distribution. So even if you don't know the joint posterior distribution completely, but if you know these two, that is marginal posterior distribution of theta 2 and the conditional posterior distribution of theta 1 given theta 2, you can still generate random observations on theta 1, theta 2 and can use them to conclude, to make different conclusions about theta 1, theta 2. So in order to explain this more, I have considered the popular example of normal distribution. So suppose we have a data from normal distribution with mean mu and variance sigma square. Now here I have assumed sigma square, a very simple joint distribution for mu and sigma square, which is simply 1 by sigma square. So you would say that there is nothing in mu, means what is the term? This distribution doesn't contain any term. So you can say I am multiplying it by 1. So the joint distribution of mu and sigma square is simply 1 by sigma square. As simple as possible. Now the conditional distribution of yi is given mu and sigma square will be like this. 1 upon sigma raised to n means sigma square raised to n by 2 pi raised to n by 2 e raised to minus summation yi minus mu square upon 2 sigma square. Now this you can rewrite like this. So the joint distribution will be simply product of 1 by sigma square and this. So this will be sigma raised to n plus 2. See, this will be sigma raised to n, and here I have sigma square. So I will have here sigma raised to n plus 2, 2 pi raised to n by 2, and this exponential term as it is. Now we know that the joint posterior distribution is proportional to the joint distribution of y's and the parameters. So we will try to simplify this joint distribution first, so that we can easily identify the conditional posterior distribution of mu given sigma square and the marginal posterior distribution of sigma square given y. It is simply in the way which we have discussed earlier. So let us see how it can be done. So now this is sigma raised to minus n plus 2, 2 pi raised to n by 2 you can simply ignore, because I am considering only proportional to, so I am ignoring all the constants and this exponential term as it is. Now in this exponential term yi minus mu, I will add and subtract y bar to get a better result. So this summation will be summation yi minus y bar whole square. Now the cross product term will be 0, because summation of yi minus y bar is 0. So the square term will only remain here, and the square term will give you n times y bar minus mu whole square. So finally you have sigma raised to minus n plus 2 e raised to minus 1 by 2 sigma square, and now suppose this upon n minus 1 will be a square. So if you define the sample variance as summation yi minus y bar whole square upon n minus 1, then this summation is simply n minus 1 times a square and plus the second term as it is. I am calling this entire terms as I. So let us see how it can be simplified further. So here I have defined a square. So now I is simply, now I have done some adjustment. Let us go back a bit so that you will have both the terms in front of you. So sigma raised to minus n plus 1. Instead of minus n plus 2, I have written only minus n plus 1. So what remains is sigma raised to minus 1, which I have adjusted it here. So I have written 1 by sigma here. Now the exponential, first term in the exponent I am keeping as it is. So e raised to minus n minus 1 a square by 2 sigma square. And now in the second exponential term, I have written it here. It will be e raised to minus n by 2 sigma square y bar minus mu whole square. So yes, it appears here. Now I have divided and multiplied by root 2 pi upon root n. So root n upon root 2 pi and root 2 pi by root n. So notice that if you focus on the second term here, root n upon sigma under root 2 pi e raised to minus n by 2 sigma square mu minus y bar whole square, this whole looks like a normal PDF with mu as the variable, y bar as its expected value, and sigma square by n as its variance. So if you look at this, this becomes a normal PDF with mean y bar and variance sigma square by n. So I have got the conditional distribution of mu given sigma square and yi is here. So thus we can conclude that because this I is nothing but the term to which the joint posterior distribution is proportional to, so we can safely say that the marginal distribution, the conditional posterior distribution of mu given sigma square is normal with mean y bar and variance sigma square by n. Now what remains is this root of 2 pi upon root n sigma raised to minus n plus 1 e raised to minus n minus 1 a square by 2 sigma square. So because this is the conditional posterior distribution, so what remains will be the marginal posterior distribution of sigma square given y. So pi of sigma square given y, so it is proportional to this term sigma raised to minus n plus 1 under root 2 pi by root n e raised to minus n minus 1 a square by 2 sigma square, and this is nothing but the inverse gamma distribution, or also called as inverse chi square in this case. inverse chi-square distribution with parameters a square by 2 and n. So thus we can write the joint posterior distribution as a product of the two terms, conditional posterior and marginal posterior distribution. So here sigma square is many times treated as a nuisance parameter while estimating mu. Since mu, if you want to estimate mu or if you want to talk about the probability distribution of mu, one has to talk about the parameter sigma square, because variance of mu is posterior variance of mu involves sigma square. So here sigma square becomes the nuisance parameter, and so this is how the nuisance parameter is handled in the case of normal mu sigma square. Now let us consider a better case, a more complex case. So suppose now we are dealing with yi's. This is the joint distribution of yi's given theta. So it is proportional to, again the complete distribution is not provided. Simply this fact is provided that it is proportional to product of theta j raised to yj, where j goes from 1 to n, and the sum over theta j's is 1. So I think you might have already guessed the distribution. This is nothing but multinomial distribution with probability of every cell as theta. So theta 1 will be the probability that an observation gets classified into the first cell. Theta 2 will be the probability that an observation gets classified into the second cell, and so on. So here y1, y2, yn represents the number of observations which have got classified in the cells, respective cells. So y1 will be the number of observations which got classified into the first cell, y2 into the second cell, and so on. So now here we are assuming that all these thetas are independent random variables, and so the joint prior distribution of these thetas is simply product of the marginal prior distributions. So product of j goes from 1 to n pi theta j. Let us not forget that the condition is still there that all cell probabilities should add up to 1. Now in this setup we are given the point of interest as beta as theta 1 upon theta 1 plus theta 2. So now the question is, find the marginal posterior distribution for beta. So notice that here instead of thetas a different parameter of interest is suggested, but this parameter of interest involves only theta 1 and theta 2. So the rest of the elements of the vector theta become nuisance parameter here. So let us see how the situation can be handled. So now the joint distribution of y and theta will be proportional to this theta j raised to yj. So this comes from the distribution of yi is given theta multiplied by the marginal posterior distribution of theta j. So pi theta j, where the product will go from 1 to n. So now because we are interested only in a function of theta 1 theta 2, so we will take out theta 1 theta 2 outside the product. So theta 1 raised to y1, theta 2 raised to y2, pi theta 1, pi theta 2 into product of theta j raised to yj, pi theta j, where j goes from 3 to n. So now what we know is the posterior distribution of theta given y is proportional to the joint distribution of y and theta. So let us use this. So pi of theta given y is proportional to these terms, all these terms put together. Now we are interested in beta, which is nothing but theta 1 upon theta 1 plus theta 2. But what we have at most is the joint posterior distribution of the entire vector theta. So we need to transform this vector theta to a separate vector so that one of the elements of the new vector will be beta, which is theta 1 upon theta 1 plus theta 2. So because the transformation can't be handled if the vectors are different in dimensions, so I have created a vector of parameters of this type. So eta is theta 1 upon theta 1 plus theta 2. First term will be simply theta 1 upon theta 1 plus theta 2, in which we are interested Then the second term, just so that we finally get a one-to-one function. So I have considered theta 1 plus theta 2 as the second element, and the rest of the elements I have kept as they were in the vector theta, so that eta and theta are one-to-one functions of each other. So if we make a transformation from theta to eta like defined like this, then we can easily go back to theta from eta like this. So theta 1 will be simply eta 1 into eta 2. Theta 2 will be eta 2 into 1 minus eta 1, and then from theta 3 onwards they are the same. So in order to find the joint distribution of eta, first we will need to compute the matrix of partial derivatives. So let us differentiate thetas with respect to etas. So we get the first derivative of theta 1 with respect to eta 1 as eta 2. Then we differentiate this with respect to eta 2, we get eta 1, and the rest of the derivatives will be 0 because these terms don't contain eta 3, eta 4 and so onwards. Now let us differentiate theta 2 with respect to eta 1. So we get minus eta 2. Now let us differentiate this with respect to eta 2. So we get 1 minus eta 1. So the rest of the elements here are again 0. Similarly, now if we differentiate theta 3 with respect to eta 3, we get the third element as 1 and the rest of the elements are 0. So same will be true for the rest of the elements of eta. Rest of the elements of theta. So this will be simply an identity matrix of order n minus 3 by n minus 2 by n minus 2. So here overall the dimension of this matrix should be n by n. So now in order to find the joint distribution of etas, we will need determinant of this matrix, in fact absolute value of the determinant of this matrix. So let us try to find it out. Since this determinant of this matrix can be computed by using the partitioning, so let us partition the matrix like this. So the determinant will be simply determinant of this matrix ultimately, which is eta 2 into 1 minus eta 1, minus minus will be plus, plus eta 2 into eta 1. So if this is suppose this is the Jacobian, so we have computed the Jacobian of transformation. So now let us go back to the posterior distribution. So now earlier the posterior distribution of theta was theta 1 raised to y1, theta 2 raised to y2. So now notice that theta 1 is eta 1 into eta 2. So I will have eta 1 into eta 2 raised to y1. Then here I will have eta 2 into 1 minus eta 1 raised to y2. And then I'll have product theta j. Instead of theta j, I'll have eta j raised to yj into pi of eta j. So finally, we will have it like this. So the joint distribution of joint posterior distribution of eta given y will be like this. Now, okay, I have rewritten here because this was very messy and not very clear to read. So I have written it here again. So eta 1 raised to y1, 1 minus eta 1 raised to y2 from here. Then eta 2 raised to this y1 plus this y2. So eta 2 raised to y1 plus y2. And then we have pi 1 of eta 1, pi 2 of eta 2 and so on. So we have, by this we mean the marginal posterior distributions of etas. So this also we have here. So how do we get now? We are interested in the, marginal prior. This is pi eta 1 and pi eta 2. We did not have pi 1 and pi 2. This should be simply pi eta 1 and pi eta 2. Now we want the marginal posterior distribution of eta 1. So notice that the terms, in order to get the marginal posterior distribution of eta 1, we will have to integrate out eta 2, eta 3 and so on up to eta n. Now notice that all these terms starting from eta 2 raised to y1 plus y2 up to this last term, all these terms do not contain eta 1 and so they will be integrated out. So if we focus on this, all these terms, only two terms contain eta 1, and so when we integrate out the rest of the variables, only these two terms will remain. So we can safely say that the marginal posterior distribution of eta 1 given y will be proportional to eta 1 raised to y1 into 1 minus eta 1 raised to y2. So you can easily identify the posterior distribution. This happens to be a beta distribution with parameters y1 and y2. So the PDF is proportional to a beta PDF with parameters y1 and y2, and so we can say that the marginal posterior distribution of eta 1 given y is a beta distribution with parameters y1 and y2. So because we were interested in only function of two parameters, the parameters were nothing but the cell probabilities of just two cells, we could have assumed binomial model instead of the multinomial model by ignoring the rest of the cells. So we could have created only three cells and we could have said that the observation is getting classified either in the first cell or in the second cell or in the third cell. But then this ends up with the trinomial model. Now notice that we are not interested in theta 1 and theta 2 separately, but we are interested in theta 1 upon theta 1 plus theta 2. So even a simpler situation, simpler model could have considered, and we could have assumed binomial model and y1 on y1 and y2 to get the posterior distribution. So if we assume, suppose y1 for given beta to be having a binomial distribution with parameters y1 plus y2 and beta, then the marginal distribution of y1 given beta will be like this binomial PMF, and if we take pi beta equal to 1, then we get the posterior distribution of beta given y1 as again beta with parameters y1 plus y2. More about this we will discuss in the next lecture.